What's up, guys? Micah Curtis here, and getting a little recording done. Hopefully, everybody's had a great Father's Day. Um, Interesting story was sent to me that I wanted to talk about because the article itself is kind of huffing some copium, or at least trying its best to, and I thought that was kind of fun. So, but we're going to be talking about Miss Marvel and why exactly it is failing to gain any traction, at least right out of the gate, and sort of like the overall problems with Kamala Khan. Because that was one thing when I was doing comic book reviews on the regular, was a lot of people said, you need to read Miss Marvel. You need to read Miss Marvel. And I read a couple issues of it, and I'm like, this is not for me. This is just not, this is the most millennial thing I've ever written. I did not write Miss Marvel. No, the most millennial thing I've ever read, and I was like, man, I just can't keep doing this. But the funny thing to me is the failure that apparently that they're seeing right out of the gate. But before we get into that, a very angry koaler told people to refund ENGLEWOOD Book 2 recently, and you didn't listen. And thank God for all of you who did not listen. We're getting ever closer to the 15K goal we want to reach to have the incredibly talented Preston Acevedo do an alternate cover for the first book, or for Book 2 for us. Plus, we're two backers away from getting this. And maybe you're not the biggest comic book reader, but maybe your dad is. Well, get it for your dad then. It's Father's Day. He'd probably dig it. But check that out. Link is going to be in the description. We'll talk about it a little bit more at the end of this. But right out of the gate, this is from the Direct. It says, Miss Marvel suffers poor viewership versus other MCU Disney Plus shows. Which, of course, would be Loki, Moon Knight, so on and so forth. I'm going to be making some comparisons to Moon Knight. I've watched the first half of Moon Knight. The first 4 episodes, I think it is, 3 or 4, whatever. And it's pretty alright. It's not bad. As it goes on, I hear that it gets better and better. But, admittedly, I was never the biggest Moon Knight fan. But the interesting thing to me is just this: it suffers poor viewership versus other MCU Disney Plus shows, and I thought that how the Direct wrote this was really intriguing. So we're gonna read through bits of the article, and I'm gonna kind of give some background on this character. Okay, so the world has a new hero in Eamon Vellani's Miss Marvel. Her new Disney Plus show has just landed, and the bright and vibrant Kamala Khan is here. Generally speaking, audiences are loving it. The Direct's own Savannah Sanders noted how the show has its own unique voice and something to say, while also grounding the MCU in a way few projects ever have. I don't know, man. I think the Captain America movies did a lot better job of that than anything that they're going to put out now. But even despite the praise, there is the usual loud minority of children review bombing the show for all the wrong reasons. Not that there's ever a right reason for the practice in the first place. Well, no, if a lot of people don't like something, they have every right to go out onto Rotten Tomatoes or wherever else and voice their displeasure. Because at the end of the day, they don't want people to make the same mistake that they do. Or they did, rather. So, yeah. Go fuck yourself for that one. Vellani's excitement for the role and her general love towards Marvel should be reason enough for most fans to want to tune in and check out the new hero. Not to mention how she'll be going on to star in next year's The Marvels. Well, co-star. There's no way she's taking the spotlight from Brie Larson. No way Hollywood's going to let that happen. Which will continue to cement Kamala Khan as a key member of the MCU. That sounds like bias to me. I mean, I'm happy for the actress, though. I will say this. It's always nice to, get to do a role you're passionate about. So if she genuinely enjoys Marvel Comics and things like that, well, good for her. But again, that can lead to some good acting. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that the show's going to catch on. And again, I have not watched it. I couldn't be asked, to be honest with you. The character's boring. But Anyway, despite all the positive reactions to the Disney Plus series and the limitless potential that her story has, citation needed, the ratings for the project's viewership in the first 5 days are in, and they don't quite reach the same heights as other series. In fact, they're one of the worst that Marvel Studios has ever seen. This is never going to surprise anybody, but let's keep going. Samba TV reported that Iman Vellani's Ms. Marvel did not perform well with regard to the number of viewers watching across the United States. In its report, the service revealed how only 775,000 U.S. households watched the premiere episode within the first 5 days of it being on Disney+. To date, that makes the new coming-of-age story one of the worst-performing MCU debuts on Disney+. The only series potentially behind it is What If, though that project only had its premiere data for its first day. For comparison, here's the 5-day premiere viewership for Marvel Studios' other shows. WandaVision was 1.6 mil, Falcon and Winter Soldier was 1.8, Loki was 2.5, Hawkeye was 1.5, Moon Knight was 1.8. I don't really care about this other stuff because it's all excuse making. Let's actually look at this from the perspective of people who like comic books and like comic book characters. So the characters that we are comparing her to, she is the youngest of all of them in regards to publication history. The Scarlet Witch has been around for 40 some odd years, probably more than that. Falcon and Winter Soldier, Bucky has been around since World War II. The Falcon's been around since, the 1960s, I think? Loki as a character has been around since, the 1960s. Hawkeye, same thing. Moon Knight, 60s or 70s. I don't remember when Moon Knight was first published. But regardless, they do have more time on her. That is true. So there's more of an establishment there. However, in regards to introduction to the MCU, in which case, the general public, I guess we could say John and Jane Q public, the only of these, the one you would compare her to is Moon Knight, in my opinion. I think this is the character, this is the show to compare her most to, because this was the MCU's introduction to Moon Knight. Moon Knight had never even been hinted at, I don't think, in anything previous before, which was interesting to me, because Moon Knight he's an Avengers staple. I really liked him in West Coast Avengers. Like I said, I've never been the biggest Moon Knight fan, but I really liked him in WCA. But and that's John Byrne's West Coast Avengers, not the most recent. Ugh. But anyway, as it stands, comparing her to Moon Knight, so she's looking at 1.8 million as composed. So more than 1 million people, 1 million more people watched Moon Knight than Miss Marvel. And when it comes right down to it, there's a few different reasons for this. And I really feel like it actually goes to the core of Kamala Khan as a character. Now, some people will say Islamophobia. In fact, I guarantee you, if this series continues to struggle, you will see an article from The Direct, or from Screen Rant, or from CBR written by that one scumbag Anthony Gramuglia, and fuck you, my book got funded, asshole. Or some other scum-sucking fucking website like Bleeding Cool will say that the unpopularity of Miss Marvel is a testament to America's Islamophobia. That article will exist at some point, I guarantee you. Now, with that said, and I probably just gave somebody an idea to write it, the fact of the matter is that Kamala Khan has always struggled in regards to gaining a bigger readership than she has for a lot of reasons. One is the most simple and the most obvious. She is the least superhero of all major Marvel superheroes. Her book, from what I read of it, it wasn't a superhero story. It was a slice of life. It just happened to have a superhero in it. The writer of the woman who co-created her with that one chick who's related to Huma Abedin, Sana Amanat, the one who's connected to the DNC, they learned all the wrong lessons from Spider-Man, because they constantly try to compare her to Peter Parker, there's a focus on her personal life and da 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 da. Go back and read Spider-Man comics from his publication history until, let's say, like, I think the last great Spider-Man writer was easily JMS. You read all of those. In fact, I would say focus specifically on David Michelini in the 90s, obviously Stan Lee, and then JMS. I think those are the main three that I would say. Like, there's a ton of good Spider-Man writers, but those are three really good examples of people who got the balance right. Spider-Man, at the end of the day, was about a superpowered guy going out and beating bad guys. That was basically it. The difference between all of it is that they were willing to inject more life drama into the character to increase the tension of situations. Now, that does not mean that the life drama should override the superhero drama, which was always the problem. For example, if you ask me, who is Spider-Man's nemesis? I can name a few of them. The Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, Venom. Those are the big three. Carnage is another one. Hell, I remember it, like, Carrion. Demo Goblin. Fucking, Doppelganger. Shriek. Oh, God. Well, I just named all the villains in Maximum Carnage for you. Cardiac. I remember Cardiac. Like, I can name Spider-Man villains all day. Thor villains. You've got Curse, Loki, Malekith, Surtur, the list goes on. You think of Fantastic Four villains, Galactus, Doctor Doom, the Mole Man, so on and so forth. There's all of these characters. There's a rogues gallery. Who is the Miss Marvel rogues gallery? You're hearing music in the background because my downstairs neighbor is playing music, but also because I didn't take the time to overlay a cricket noise. Because nobody knows who this character's rogues gallery is. Because she doesn't really have one. Like, I couldn't tell you who her enemies are because the writers never thought about that, because they weren't writing a comic book character. They were basically writing, again, a slice of life story. They were writing a CW show. They were writing a Hallmark Channel show or something like that. They were writing a teen drama. They weren't writing a comic book character. Not really. So you constantly run into this problem with this character where it's really, like, she had and has always had a cult following, but she's never really had a consistent big readership, The people who read her kept reading her as the years went on, It's like she had really good reader retention. That's the one thing that, like, everybody has acknowledged as the years have gone on, is that she's not that popular. She's not as popular as Marvel wants you to think she is, but she does keep the readers that she has. The people who like her really like her. But as it comes down to it, down to brass tacks, she's never been popular, and you see places like The Direct and others say, oh, she's a culture changing character. What was the language that they used here? Bright and vibrant, unique voice, something to say while grounding the MCU, things like that. Like, these are all puff pieces to try to make this character seem like she's more important than she is. That's always been the case when it comes right down to it. And when you have, and this is, again, is the problem that a lot of people get into, is they don't actually say what the character is or what she's doing. They give you all this puff, but when you finally read the book, you're like, there's nothing here. And you can't do that. You can't say that this character is world-changing and life-changing and culture-changing when she is none of the above. She's just a bratty teenager that, happens to be Muslim. And that's basically it. Her religion barely even comes into play in the books, from what I've heard. And I also saw that there's a couple of snide comments apparently supposedly aimed at Jews in there too. I've only seen like out of context screenshots. I don't know if that's the case. And I'm thinking to myself like, oh boy. So this has never been a character that was ever going to be big, because they never really engineered her to be a proper superhero. Because at the end of the day, she comes from an Islamic background and all this other stuff. You know, you want to have that be the window dressing on top of, you know, being a superhero. And they just never really did it right. You know, they didn't really learn from Spider-Man. They thought Spider-Man had some teenage drama, so that means we can just do a teenage drama, right? Right? Wrong. So, it is what it is. But I'm not really surprised at sort of the fact that it's struggling. But regardless, I can't really talk too much shit about not being popular. I'm not either. But but what I am trying to get popular is my own work. So if you're looking for a good classic superhero story, Englewood Book 2, live on Indiegogo. We're 2 backers away from getting our first 200. So if you haven't backed the book yet, please do so. Link in the description. If we get to that 15K goal, which I think we're going to before the book starts going out, we will be getting an alternate cover by the incredibly talented Preston Acevedo. I'm going to have it, and then for those of you who get this box of everything tier, if you've got it, you're actually going to get that particular cover for free, as basically another edition of the book. So pick it up. Pick up the Ark of the Covenant tier. You get literally everything that we offer on the campaign. Do not pass it up whatsoever. So with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and take off. My name is Micah Curtis, your favorite Vanilla Gorilla. Have yourselves a great day.